welcome to the Internet of Things. Hopefully you all can hear me. Please send me a message in the WebEx box if you are not able to hear okay. But the first thing to do would absolutely be to turn up the volume on your computer. Just a couple of quick messages before we begin. First of all, my name is Rebecca Martin. I am your host for today. I am not going to be actually presenting, but if you do have any questions or issues, definitely do let me know on the message box, and I'll be sure to help you out. A couple of questions that I just want to address because I just want to get started. You are not all the only, we do have a number of folks on this webinar today, so you may only just be seeing your name as far as attendees, but trust me, there are quite a few on the line, so we're happy to have you all. Thank you all so much for attending. All of your mics are on mute. If you do have any questions, we're asking that you just type it into the message box, and we will certainly be addressing questions as we go through this seminar and also at the end. Also, if you'd like, you can certainly follow along on Twitter. We're going to be tweeting this as we go. So please do feel free to follow along. The hashtag is #software. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Joe Salvo, who will be getting us started. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. I'm going to ask you to give a little background. My name is Joe Salvo. I've been here at the Research Center for about 25 years. I'm an undergraduate from Harvard University, and then I went and completed my PhD at Yale University. And I came right here to CE. So let me tell you a little bit about the R&D Center first. We've been here for quite a number of years. GE itself has been founded in 1892. We're the only original company in the Dow Jones Index. The Global Research Center is really focused on market-centric R&D. We're the first U.S. industrial lab. We began here in 1900. We're one of the most diverse industrial labs on the planet and continue to add capacity. We have over 3,000 technologists that work around the world. We have a large center in Niskayuna, New York, in Bangalore, India, Shanghai, China, Munich, Germany, and our newest center in Rio de Janeiro. The topic I'd like to discuss today is really an exciting area to think about, the Internet of Things. I'm going to try to put it in the context of the systems age. And I think if you take away any messages today, it's that we're moving from an analog world to a digital world that's driven by two laws, Moore's Law and Metcalfe's Law. And I'm going to try to talk about how I see this developing through time. So why now? Why is this happening now? We've had an enormous move towards globalization. We're seeing different polls. Let's take India, for example, that has focused on high-tech IT and engineering support. China originally focused on low-cost manufacturing. Europe created the European Union with large open markets. And the United States focused on a very powerful brand distribution model. This chart dates back about 10 years. The landscape has changed quite a bit. We now see that China has moved more into the high-tech manufacturing. India is actually doing outsourcing on its own. They've become an enormous new market. And the U.S. is now exporting high-tech, value-added items to China and around the world. We've become a small business creation hub, and new business models are driving innovation like never before. However, because these business systems are global, they are actually very vulnerable to things like oil pricing changes, changes in regulation, natural disasters. So the fact that we're more connected just puts more and more emphasis on our ability to remain connected and keep our systems transparent. So if we look at the major trends that have been going on, in the last 10 years, we've really connected many of the people in the world to each other. We've done this through cell phone networks, the internet, a whole host of text messaging systems, and now as we continue to see the evolution of these networks, we have blogs and iPods and iPads, and the amount of information and data that's available to the average person is really abundant, ubiquitous, and in many cases, overwhelming. But it's really just at the beginning. So we have a standard Internet Protocol version 4, which originally envisioned only about 4 billion unique addresses. And no one back then really expected the Internet to be used in the way it's used today. Today, the new standard Internet Protocol version 6, which allows for up to 10 to 38 addresses. And just to give people a feel for how big that number is, if we put a mesh network around the surface of the Earth with 1 millimeter spacing, on each node we could put 10 to the 18 unique numbers of tags on that node. So basically, it allows us, at least intellectually, to be able to tag and identify an almost limitless number of items in the world. So if we look at the evolution of connectivity, and we take the cell phone penetration as an example, back in the mid-'80s, the cell phone actually started out as a very large box that had limited connectivity, limited interoperability, and value that was also limited by the technical limitations. With time, this very simple radio device evolved into an extremely intelligent, multifunctional tool that allows you to do business process, payments, become a personal assistant, and in many cases can become an entertainment device, a camera, and obviously the explosion of these devices around the world has really changed the fabric of how we communicate and how we think about solving problems. That has happened over a very short period of time, 25 or 30 years, where we went from basically 0 to billions of devices. What I would suggest to you today is an analogous transformation is going to happen as industry moves applications on many of the objects. And this will be orders of magnitude larger in extent, where there will be trillions of objects in the near future that have this capability. So the products themselves are going to morph away from being a simple individual item into systems of items that integrate information from many, many different sources. So I basically propose to you that we are witnessing the end of the information age. And this sounds a little ironic, given that most of these devices are going to create enormous amounts of information. But I would caution you to remember that when historians name an age, that will be Iron Age, Stone Age, the people that have perfected technology of that age are the leaders. They're the ones that have the technical advantage. When the technology is widely available and it is commoditized, it's no longer a method for people to discriminate or differentiate themselves from others. So when I say the end of the information age, it's not to imply that information is not going to be important. It's going to be ubiquitous, and it's not going to distinguish the winners from the losers. So I believe the next step that is already underway is the evolution of powerful decision systems. And I would turn this thing into system stage away from information age. So the New World Order is really being formed out of global business networks and global connectivity. And here's a paragraph that was written that seems to describe in quite some detail what many people around the world experience today. But it turns out this was actually written by Karl Marx in 1848. And I put this up here because at that moment in history, there was another discontinuity in technology where we were moving away from the feudal ages and into the industrial age. And people, whenever they go through one of these changes in technology, feel a sense of instability and in many cases a fear of the unknown because the way the world operates is basically changing. And we have that same sense today, but it is a time for great opportunity for people that embrace the change and try to create opportunity for themselves and for others. So let's go back and look at what was happening when Thomas Edison was in the beginning of building an electric company. He basically had a vision to create large electrical grids. Initially, they were focused around a production facility for power, which was limited in extent because of choice of DC power. This evolved into networks that became interconnected, and now we have the AC powered grid that spans across the continent. And it is an amazing system that has basically changed the way of life. It enabled tall skylines because of the ability to build escalators and elevators and electric lights to allow us to work unencumbered by nightfall. So now we're entering a new age, the systems age, where everything will be hyper-networked. And one of the concrete examples will be moving into an intelligent grid or a smart grid where the same electrical system will now be connected to millions and millions of sensors that will have to help manage and optimize all the objects that are connected to it in near real time. Now, one of the important features of this kind of technology evolution is a phenomenon that was first pointed out by Metcalfe in the early days of the Ethernet. And basically, it was an observation that the value of a given network seems to increase according to a power law. And roughly the square of the number of objects that are in the network. And it turns out it does not apply just to devices on an Ethernet, but almost any type of network that has many different objects that are connected. So in many cases, it can even apply to networks of people. And we see now that networks like Facebook, Tencent, Friendster are really allowing a whole new level of collaboration and connecting between people and organizations never before. And the value of these networks is also obeying this power law. So the goal is to build these networks as large as possible to get the maximum amount of benefit. So what's coming next? That's really what this talk is about. We view the next big wave of technological change. It's going to focus on connecting the machines of the world together. So rather than being limited to billions of objects, in the machine world there are trillions. And it's up to everybody's imagination to where this is going to go. I'll put down a few examples here. We see on the right upper corner a network that would include telematics devices from automobiles and workstations, people, helping to provide instant updates to people on the go via satellite or cell phone network. We already have many of these devices that are being put in place today. On the left-hand side, we'll see a modern kiosk at a transportation center, also connected to schedules and people, helping coordinate in real time schedules that may change unexpectedly. On the lower left and lower right, we see the beginning of working robots that are entering both the workplace and military operations. The one on the right is quite dramatic in that it created a robotic animal type device called Big Dog, and I encourage you to go on YouTube and look at some of the interesting videos of this object, where you can start to get a feel for how these objects are going to interconnect and coordinate activity. And I pose an interesting question. Do you really know who your computer's friends are? It turns out most of our computers are talking to other machines already. I'm sure you've installed some update software and other types of clients that may be bringing down podcasts or news feed, or maybe even a webinar. The point is, in the very near future, machines are going to start to make decisions on their own, and they will not have to look for human supervision for each decision. And in many cases, they're already. If you look at what our company does, we really have an enormous number of transportation, financial services, healthcare, and information networks already in place. They're made up of things like millions of fleet vehicles, cargo containers, trailers, thousands of power plants, aircraft engines, aircraft themselves, locomotives. We really are a global company with a global portfolio of many, many different types of things and objects. We need to manage these assets for both ourselves and for our customers. And in the use of these objects, over $1 trillion of goods move around the planet. So it's a very, very big responsibility. Now, one of the traps that one can easily fall into is thinking that this network can be totally predicted through this deterministic equation. And we guard against that by having access to real-time information being fed back through these networks from a variety of sensors or from input. So it's always best to balance the deterministic view of modeling with real-time information. Let me give you some practical examples. One of the big daily tasks is to move material around the planet. In North America, much of this material is moved by trucks. And the question is, are there ways to help manage that in a more effective manner? So one of the things the group here at GE Research did years ago was to team up with Walmart and equip all of the trailers in their fleet with telematics devices that communicated via satellite so that they could time the arrival, the unloading, and the scheduling of their fleet in near real time. This allows you to get a macroscopic look at the flow of material across the United States. This, in fact, is not a map. It is just a plot of some of the 200,000 points that exist in that network that track various types of moving trailers and vehicles. And once you get a view like this, you can start to think about how can I increase security? How can I conserve fuel? How can I use other technologies like radio identification to tag various types of time-critical or inventory-critical objects? How can I balance my load? It just opens up a whole other way to look at the world and move it from an analog to a digital point of view. The types of services can be at the highest level where you're trying to optimize a portfolio of these objects. You can look at the objects during a recovery after a hurricane, for example. Picture on the right-hand side in the middle is actually a picture taken after Hurricane Katrina moved into New Orleans. And we were actually able to track many of the rescue vehicles moving into that area, even though the ground telemetry had all been wiped out. The satellite-based system is actually in operation. So these kinds of networks, which are hierarchical in nature, can be applied to cars, trucks, locomotives, people, health equipment. And as I said earlier, the more objects that are in these networks, the greater the inherent value. Now, this is not a new problem. In fact, uh, thousands of years ago, they had similar problems, but they tried to solve it in many different ways. I was in a museum in London some time ago, and I stumbled upon these cuneiform tablets. And I was amused to see that one of the tablets, actually the second one from the right, is a letter of complaint that went from a customer to his supplier complaining that he was sent the wrong grade of copper ore, and he was very unhappy. Unfortunately, there was no market supplier. So that continues to today, but now with some of these new technologies, he doesn't have to wait quite as long to complain again, hopefully get his problem rectified. Now, GE is a global company, and I wanted to point out that some of our focus is pointing at building networks to create a whole new array of sustainable and green technology. For example, GE Wind is installing wind turbines all around the world, and these also need to be tracked, traced, and maintained global networks. Here's an example of a small application we built a couple years ago with our group in Shanghai that actually tracked the shipment of all these wind turbine components around China in real time to allow the very efficient scheduling of materials, grain, and people. Because a lot of these wind turbine sites are in very, very remote areas. And this was a huge benefit to all the people involved putting up this very important network. So I would maintain that the world is going to continue to need transponders. In many cases, the stores may have more than 100,000 unique items they provide their customers. Very complicated to keep track of all that. The military also has a need for keeping track of all the different items that they're making and making available around the world. And FDA for pharmaceuticals. Most recently, there's been a series of food scares and health scares associated with food that's become contaminated. And I use this example to highlight that above and beyond the moment and the suffering that goes each event, William Shakespeare said it very, very well. School is like birth, it's trash. But he that looks like with me, while it's free, if you lose your reputation, you have lost everything. And these technologies are one of the best ways to ensure that you know what is happening. If you're big, what's happening, your reputation. It's not enough to say it's someone else's responsibility. We're all responsible now. So in the very near future, these types of systems will track literally trillions of objects. So with this data creation, it's going to continue to accelerate the need for intelligent machines that are going to converse directly with each other. And the data storage methods that we've traditionally used and the search methods are going to become woefully inadequate. And I think you can start to see that yourself in a personal basis when you try to find your own images that you've taken with your digital cameras. Most people have thousands or tens of thousands of images. In my day, when I first started taking pictures, it was all film and print, and I'd be lucky if I had 1,000 pictures. Today, thousands, very difficult to find the image you want when you want it. And there's been a whole new technologies for search. But really what we're looking for now is find. We want to be able to find things, not just search for them. So machine consciousness, machine decisioning is going to come to that rescue. And now it's going to become more important how fast you can find the information versus the inherent value of the data itself. In fact, much data, the perceived value is going to approach zero. Just having the data is not enough. The other ideas of the future is going forward, in particular about where machine world and digital world is going to go. There's some very, very interesting ideas that are out there. One is the idea of singularity. The singularity is a theoretical moment in time when machine capability exceeds the capability of cognition. And it would appear that when that event happens, the fabric of networks is going to change in a very, very dramatic way. So far, this point is away from us today. Ray Kurzweil has projected that it's very close to being perhaps as close as 9 or 10 years away. And this is done based purely on Moore's law projection. And the projection is quite dramatic, saying that by 2020, we will be able to obtain hardware for approximately $1,000 that would be equivalent in computing power to a human brain. Now, that's not to say that we would know exactly how to program that or how to create the architecture, but believe me, many, many people are starting to do that. And there are no new laws of physics that can be invented to at least create the hardware speed. Perhaps the architecture could be a challenge, but there's many, many people now approaching this massive parallel problem in earnest. This is going to continue to accelerate at an exponential rate. So what kind of benefits could we view using these kind of very powerful decision engines? Well, I'll give you one concrete example. GE has many, many thousands of large-scale power plants that we help maintain with our customers around the world. And when we tear these systems down for repairs or upgrades, all of these components that are critical are marked, and we need to reuse it. You can imagine the wear and tear that occurs on a power plant, and in some cases it's very difficult to read some parts. And we ask human beings today to do that work. And in many cases, the data we get back can be less than adequate. Now, most of you are probably familiar with the capture system when you try to log on to computer systems on the internet. That system evolved to try to prevent computer robots from taking over many of the sites that are out there. And that's because computer robots have great difficulty reading these kind of capture modified fonts. They're very good at reading natural machine-driven fonts, but the capture fonts, humans are very good at it. The typical optical character recognition software is not very good. Well, it turns out there are approaches to be able to read these kind of human legible fonts. One of them is called sparse distributed memory. In this type of technology, one takes information and uses the actual identity of the information as the position in memory. So the address is the actual content that you are trying to store. As a result of this paradigm shift in memory organization, similar memory objects are physically close in the imaginary memory space. So it becomes quite easy to actually recognize patterns, similarities that are very difficult to identify and have to perform. So in the future, I believe it's actually going to be better to forget than have a perfect memory in many cases. If we look at the trends that have been formed of digital content, which I hope I've convinced you is going to continue at exponential rate. And there's been a total collapse in the perceived value of pure data in its discrete form. But now we have to find out how to process this avalanche of data. vibration pattern. It is very, very efficient, very, very fast at doing it, and it does it with a computer system that is many orders of magnitude slower than a based computer. So it does it basically because it has a very, very different architecture. And that is where I want to take it with this, is that the area of technology that I believe is going to really accelerate in the coming decades is around creating a intelligence and a consciousness in our machine that is more organic and serves the purposes of processing enormous amounts of information without having to look at everything forever. So cyber-physical systems will continue to play an increasing role in everyday life, both at the personal level and at the industrial level. These systems will be a very complex amalgam of material objects, computing systems. In fact, in many cases, the computing system will become indistinguishable from the physical object itself. It will be composed of an asset ID component, a tracking technology component, a data analysis component, and a business process management component. We will try to take advantage of the Metcalfe effect, this value effect of increasing network size. And I believe build new types of tools that can create the type of distributed decision system they're going to demand it by people's needs, and we are going to wind up building very, very intelligent systems. Now, just to show you that we have actually run the experiment of how internet and networks actually affect society, I showed a picture here, a space picture in the evening of an area of geography on the world. It contains very similar natural resources, very similar people, yet one group decided to be connected to the rest of the world, and one group has stayed going by itself. And I think you can see the very striking difference between North and South Korea at night. And I would base a lot of this on the ability of a network to change a society. So, in end, I'd like to say a special thanks to all the great people I've worked with that have helped me formulate some of these ideas and have actually created a lot of inventions that I had a chance to highlight to you today. And I encourage you to really look into this area. You are in a unique period of time where the world is changing this digital systems age. And very few people get a chance to go through an inflection point like this. And I hope you decide to join us trying to solve some of the world's great problems. Thanks, John.
Okay, so Joe, thanks a lot. This is Tim O'Hara joining the call. I'm the Manager of Talent Acquisition. I want to thank Joe for his time this afternoon, and certainly we'll open it up to questions. Just to kind of finish out Joe's conversation, there is an opportunity for folks to learn more about what we do at GE Global Research. You can access our website by going to ge.com/research. Also take a look at our Edison's Desk. It's GE's longest running blog. There's many opportunities for you to get a kind of behind the curtain look at our technology and our technologists, to see some of the exciting work that's going on. Also, you can access us at Twitter. You can see us on YouTube. We also have a GE Genius of the Day, which highlights and showcases some of our people and some of the exciting technology that they're working on. And certainly you can check us out on Facebook as well. So a lot of opportunities to learn more about what we do at Global Research, and some of the exciting opportunities that we have. I think we're going to go ahead and go forward on some additional information here, including many ways to apply. Again, you can go to ge.com/research, which will take you right to our research openings. And then the GE Careers website, which would give you exposure to all of the jobs in the General Electric company, whether it be in energy or water or healthcare, aviation, and so forth. So either of those sites certainly will direct you in the right areas to find out about more of our opportunities. We're going to have some additional software webinar series presentations going on. Our next one will be scheduled for July 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll be having a presentation on supercomputing for the engineering and scientific discovery. On August 10th, we're going to be talking about social media and collaboration. Again, that'll be 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And our third seminar will be on enabling distributed action in energy and other networks on August 24th. So this information will be posted at our ge.com research site. You'll have an opportunity to mark these in your calendar. We certainly encourage you to join us. It's a great way for us to tell you about the exciting work that we're doing here, and for our researchers to tell you a little bit about what type of work we're doing, and for you to certainly ask questions of us and find out more information about what we're all about. So I think we're going to move over to back to Joe now. Okay, we'll go back to Joe now.
Well, thank you so much. I've got a few responses already. Thank you for the kind words. I'd like to get to some of the questions that have come in. I encourage anyone else out there that if you have a question, I will try to get to all of them today. So one of the questions was, does GE Research have more detailed information regarding transparent logistics network? And we absolutely do. We've published a series of papers over the years. Many of us give talks at conferences. We have many businesses that have products in this area. So, for example, we have a GE Fleet that has a fleet management product. We have GE Transportation that provides a product that tracks locomotives. We have systems that track aircraft and engines. So there is a wide variety of technology that we have embraced to solve our customers' problems. So if there's anything specific you would like to be pointed to, I can try to do that. You can just send in to my email or send Becky a follow-up, and we will try to point you in the right direction. Okay, so we have a question pertaining to what role telcos can play into the Internet of Things. Well, clearly, this is a very, very important question, and many telcos paid the price for not embracing this move to the digital age fast enough. We see an explosion in digital content and digital devices. Many of the telcos have moved over and set up plans and infrastructure to take, in many cases, a very different model of how data has to move. In some cases, there needs to be quality of service, features enabled, but it is an enormous growth opportunity for people creating networks that would allow this to happen. But there were several that clung to the analog world a little too long, and many of those are no longer with us. So I believe the telcos will be a strong part of the network system, but it will transcend telcos. There will be other methods to move information around, but they will definitely remain a key player in the future. The next question pertains to what are some of the tools and skill sets which are missing in the current conversation about the Internet of Things. Well, I think, there's always going to be a balance between hardware and software. And then one of the novel aspects of this systems age is the increasing importance on architecture. More and more, the sheer complexity of the systems we're building require an enormous amount of effort to go into the design of the architecture that will ultimately provide the answers to our questions. So that actually requires a change in mindset amongst engineers both at the IT and the hardware layer, because it is an interconnected systems blend. Another question, what could be an example of effort in GRC towards the Internet of Things? Some exemplary project. Well, let me tell you about a very exciting new project that you should start to see out in commercial space very, very soon. As you might have heard, there's enormous demand for various types of electric vehicles. GE actually created one of the first electric vehicles, and if you ever come to Schenectady in Mosquina, it is still here. But beyond that, there is going to be an enormous demand for electric vehicle chargers to keep these cars ready to go. And we believe there will be an enormous need for software systems to help interconnect all the vehicles and their users into various types of marketplaces and communities. And we're actually looking for feedback from people like you on the phone and on the internet today to help us understand what you think would be the best way to approach building a network of intelligent, interconnected electric vehicles and the users of those vehicles. So that's a great question. Question via Twitter. What will be the first commercial products to have this kind of impact on the Internet of Things? Well, I think you're already seeing it out there. If you have smartphone capability, you know that there is literally thousands and thousands of applications now that allow you to connect directly to other Internet-enabled objects. These can be everything from a light bulb to an automobile. So it really is enabling the innovation of individuals to create their own systems with their friends. There are new business models that allow you to use these intelligent objects to communicate or to send information via the Internet of Things. So I think it's already out there, and it's really limited only by your imagination. What competitive advantage does GE Global Research have in the software industry as compared to other software companies such as Google? That's a great question, and I would love to approach that question. GE is a very, very unique company in that we have deep domain knowledge and expertise in many, many different verticals. So, for example, healthcare. We build equipment. We partner with hospitals to make the patient experience better. We have high technology solutions for the railroad industry, for the aircraft industry, for the nuclear industry, for the wind industry. GE Capital provides an enormous number of financial services. What you have is a company that is global in extent and uses global connectivity, its global networks, to bring together the best solutions wherever they may be. And we are not limited in a purely virtual world. We are experts in the physical world as well as the virtual world. And I believe that really does distinguish us from a lot of the new startups that has focused mainly on the digital world. Our focus is a blending of the physical and the virtual world. And I think that really does position us in a very unique place. I may add that Schenectady, New York, is the city that has the most patents ascribed to it in the world, and we intend to keep it that way. It says here a question, you haven't mentioned healthcare as a key area, whether monitoring cardiac inputs or blood sugar levels. Where do you see healthcare in the Internet of Things? Unfortunately, I was only given a small amount of time to talk today, but healthcare obviously is a huge area of interest for us, and we believe is going to be a very, very positive area that will be impacted by the Internet of Things. We have active products right now that are in hospitals helping to monitor patient health, monitor equipment, and keep everything operating in tip-top shape. In fact, a lot of our systems anticipate problems before they even occur. So although I did not talk about it too much today, it is an extremely active area of research, and we actually sell billions of dollars of software into the healthcare industry today. So I apologize for not going into it in more detail, but maybe as a topic of a future webinar, we can cover that. Thank you for bringing that up. We have a question that says, how do you see real standards for messaging and interfaces for the things becoming embraced? Well, that's a very timely question. I was just in Barcelona a couple of weeks ago at the European Internet of Things Week, and I was invited to speak about how I saw the Internet of Things architecture developing in North America, and also what role standards will play in it. I think standards are critical for us to maintain the interoperability, which is at the basis of being able to build out these networks in a value-oriented way and in a way where we can connect all the machines and all the people of the world together. So we heartily support open standards, and we want to see the Internet maintained as an open and available network all around the world. And I think we're seeing a lot of instances in recent times where the power of an open Internet can address many, many problems that we had never anticipated would be addressed by this technology. So we certainly support an open Internet with standards. One question here, can you elaborate on the data analysis and business process modeling to create better decision systems? What are the current challenges you see? One of the things that I see as a big challenge, and I touched on it briefly, is the issue of data analysis. In the past, data analysis was almost treated as a separate area of expertise, and much of the data was collected and, hard to believe, was never really processed. And one of the problems is it's very difficult to process the data, and in many cases the data is in poor condition when it's received. When you start to approach these problems from a systems basis, and you start to anticipate the value of the output, you often will architect a very, very different type of data analysis system that is more integrated with both the hardware and the business models. So data analysis and business process management go hand in hand to create the value that ultimately keeps the customer coming back to you. So we believe it is actually an area of differentiation. The current challenge is to break down the barriers between organizations and different entities to be able to see this systems view and to allow them to collaborate in near real time in this digital space. And we should not underestimate the challenge to break down these barriers between vertical organizations and functional organizations that have been in place and have worked quite efficiently through the past industrial and information age. But in this new systems age, we are going to have to change in many, many critical things. Another question, do the software projects involve working within a global team? And the answer to that is absolutely. In fact, global brain that we use at GE is really another one of our differentiating characteristics. So we have people all around the world that contribute to the best systems level decisions. And really, GE never goes to sleep. We are always working somewhere on these problems, whether it's in healthcare, aviation, locomotives. We have engineers around the world working on problems that exist today and trying to prevent problems in the future from ever arising. So we absolutely need those teams, and we're never looking back. It's a very exciting part of the job, actually. We have a question about people don't want to spend money to make their things to be connected devices. How can you encourage them? Well, in many cases, you really don't have to encourage them if they can see the value. And I'll give you a simple example in the United States. We have a variety of systems around automatic toll collection. And initially, people thought that there would be a big pushback to this technology because when you put the device in your automobile, and this is not a GE product, I'm just using this as an example. When you put this device in your car, it identifies you and the car as going through the toll booth at a particular point in time. And people thought that the privacy issue would actually kill that business model. It turned out when people did the value assessment, and they did that every day when they approached the toll booth, I can sit in this line of 35 cars and wait, or I can go through at 15 miles an hour and never stop. They made the decision in droves to go to the automated network Internet of Things type solution. So I think people are very intelligent, and if the value is there, they will accept it, and they will pay for it in many cases. If the value is less obvious, you may have to get them to try things for a while, and then when they do see the value is there, they will come back and close. So I put a lot of faith in the customer and the consumer to make the right decision, and if they don't see the things the way we think, we rethink and try to see things a little bit more like they do. What is GE doing to influence engineering education decision makers to provide future engineers who will make the visions you shared today a reality? We have a very active outreach program at GE, and I cannot begin to tell you all the different facets of it. We have internship programs here. We have outreach programs at schools. We actively engage universities in discussion. We have a GE Foundation that has supported a wide range of education opportunities over the years. So as a scientist, I really don't feel qualified to represent GE's many roles in this area, but I can assure you we believe engineers and technologists are critical for moving the world forward in a safe and responsible manner. So we encourage that, and we believe it starts at a very, very early age. So for all of you those out there that have any ability to affect this, I would encourage you to get people to do a little bit more mathematics and a little bit more science, and maybe a little less on the video game. Okay, we have a couple more questions. One is, I believe that web services have a business process which doesn't quite exist in the robotic services Internet of Things. Do you agree? I don't agree specifically. I think if you look at the robotic industry, they have gone through a series of challenges. In the mid-'80s, there was a very difficult period where a lot of the promises that were made were not kept, and funding into the nature of robotics and artificial intelligence that I was describing today was cut back severely. Now, with many, many years behind us and Moore's Law crunching along, the robotic community is now starting to re-look and how to create some of these systems that just were too difficult to do with the existing hardware. So I believe you are going to now start to see robots that will work via business processes as independent agents and in groups and in swarms. And these robots are not going to be the traditional robots you see working the industrial pavement today. A lot of these are going to be very small and very, very large, and they will not look like a traditional robot. But they will have business rules that drive some of their behavior. But I believe they will also begin to explore non-deterministic space with some very important safety procedures in place to constrain the behaviors that they will be able to perform. But I think as these systems get extremely complex, it would be just too difficult to imagine us tracing every single deterministic outcome that the environment could propose to these robotic entities. Okay, we're running a little late. I'm going to take one more question. We have a question from, does the GE India Tech Lab do any research in data analysis and insights from data? And the answer is absolutely. We have a very active software center there in India, which continues to grow, and they work on a variety of business problems. Some people asked about healthcare. They're in the midst of that, as well as some of the more industrial applications that I touched on today. So yes, they play a very, very important role and a growing role in the Internet of Things. One other question just came in: where do sensor networks meet the Internet of Things? I think in the past, sensors were looked at as independent objects. With the availability of very, very tiny ASICs that have embedded computing power, the difference between a sensor network and an internet computing network is going to disappear. So yes, there will be many, many sensors that become merged into this Internet of Things, and in essence, they are going to enable the evolution of the Internet of Things through real-time feedback and interaction with the world. So sensor networks will be critical to actually training the conscious entities that will make up the Internet of Things of the future. At that point, I'm afraid we're out of time, and I really want to thank everybody for the fantastic questions. We had a huge number of people that joined the call today and stayed right to the end. So I really, really appreciate you doing that. We have a very exciting list of software webinars coming up in the near future. The next one is going to be on July 12th at 3 p.m., and it is going to look at the world of supercomputing for engineering and scientific discovery. That will be followed by a webinar on social media and collaboration. And then on August 24th, a talk enabling distributed action in energy and other networks. And believe me, there is going to be a lot of activity in the energy sphere as we grapple with how to embrace billions of people joining the modern world, and their energy needs are yet to be fulfilled. So I really am looking forward to that one myself. Thank you again from GE Global Research, and we hope to keep this discussion going. So please continue to attend these seminars and send in those questions. It was fantastic today. Thank you very much.